The reality is that we rarely know the full story. And before we move on, I want to ask you something. What are you carrying? What burden have you become so accustomed to carrying that you've stopped noticing how heavy it's become in your life? Welcome to the Bounce Back Black Woman podcast. I'm Dell, coach, author, mom, and your sister along this journey of healing, growth, resilience, and living more intentionally. As Black women, we know all too well that life can break our hearts in more ways than one. But here in this space, we heal, grow, rebuild, and bounce back together. Because it's not just you. It's not just me. It's us. Hey there, my friend, and welcome back to Bounce Back Black Woman. I want to start this episode out with a question. Have you ever found yourself frustrated by someone's behavior? Maybe it was the coworker who seemed short-tempered with you, or the driver who cut you off in traffic. Maybe it was the cashier who barely looked up when you smiled and tried to be friendly, or the family member who always seems critical. Maybe it's the child who keeps making the same poor choices, or maybe someone hurt you, not intentionally, but enough that it still stung. Our natural response is to often judge what we can see. But today, I want to invite you to consider something different. What if? What if there's more to the story than you know? Because, my friend, everyone is carrying something. You see, we see behavior, but we don't always see the burden behind the behavior. And one of the easiest things in the world to judge is behavior. It's much harder to become curious. Maybe your aunt has become difficult since losing her husband. Or maybe your spouse seems impatient because they're carrying enormous pressure at work. Maybe that homeless man on the corner wasn't always homeless. Or maybe your child isn't trying to disappoint you. They're trying to figure out life while making mistakes of their own. Maybe your friend stopped calling because she's overwhelmed, caring for her aging parents. The reality is that we rarely know the full story. And before we move on, I want to ask you something. What are you carrying? What burden have you become so accustomed to carrying that you've stopped noticing how heavy it's become in your life? Because compassion isn't something that we just extend to other people. Sometimes the person in the mirror is the one most in need of our compassion. Now, let me be clear. Compassion doesn't mean pretending that hurtful behavior is okay. It doesn't mean abandoning healthy boundaries. It doesn't mean allowing abuse. And it doesn't mean excusing every poor decision that someone makes. Compassion simply says, I'm going to remember your humanity while I decide how I'm going to respond. And that's different, very different. You can have compassion and still say no. You can have compassion and still protect your peace. You can have compassion and still hold people accountable for their behaviors and their actions. Now, sometimes the hardest people to extend compassion toward are the ones who've hurt us, especially when the hurt wasn't intentional. A careless moment, or a forgotten birthday, a friend who let you down, a spouse who was distracted, a parent who didn't know better. Compassion asks us to pause before we assume motive. because not every wound comes from malice. Sometimes it comes from another wounded person. One of the things that I love most about Jesus is that he saw people that others overlooked. He saw the woman at the well. He saw the tax collector, the leper. He even saw the thief, the woman caught in adultery. He never ignored the truth, but he never lost sight of the person. And that, my friend, is compassion. Truth wrapped up in love. So here's a question that I ask myself sometimes. If I were having the hardest day of my life, how would I hope that someone responded to me? With patience? With grace? Kindness? Understanding? And if that's the case, then why wouldn't I strive to offer those same things to somebody else? Not because they've done anything to earn it, but because I needed it. And maybe today you need it too. You see, compassion isn't passive. Sometimes compassion looks like listening. Sometimes compassion looks like extending grace. And sometimes the most compassionate thing that you can do for yourself or for someone else is to have the courage to have the conversation. Set the boundary, ask for help, or even tell the truth. You see, compassion changes how we see people. But next time, we're going to talk about what it takes to act on what it is that we see, because that's where courage begins. Colossians 3:12 says this: "Since God chose you to be the holy people he loves, you must clothe yourselves with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience." Notice that Paul doesn't tell us to put on judgment or suspicion or criticism. He says, clothe yourselves every day. Choose compassion. Choose kindness. Choose gentleness. Those, my friend, are intentional choices. So the next time that someone frustrates you, before you react, I want you to try asking one simple question. What might they be carrying that I simply can't see? And I want you to ask that question because you may never know the answer, but asking the question changes something inside of you. Because compassion isn't just a gift that we give others, it transforms us as well. And friends, sometimes compassion is only the beginning. Sometimes seeing clearly means that you can no longer stay where you are. Sometimes compassion leads to a courageous conversation that needed to be had, or a healthier boundary that you've known but been too afraid to enforce, or asking for help, even when it feels embarrassing, or maybe even just taking the first step toward healing, even when the outcome is unknown. In the next episode, we're going to talk about what it looks like to choose courage, even when you don't know what waits on the other side. But in the meantime, this is the challenge I want to offer you. This week, I want you to choose one moment, just one, where your first instinct is to feel frustration. And when you do, I want you to pause, take a breath, and ask yourself this question: what is it that I might not know? I mean, you may still need boundaries, and you still may disagree, and you still might even have difficult conversations, but let compassion shape your response, not simply reaction. Because, my friend, everyone is carrying something. Well, that's it for today, my friend. I really hope this episode inspired, encouraged, or just plain comforted you. If so, please share it with a friend who might be struggling in her own healing journey. And if you take a moment to leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts, you'll help other women find encouragement through their heartbreak. Remember that God is holding your hand along this journey, and guess what? I'm holding the other. Life is short, so bounce back, Black woman.